Well, welcome back to the My First Rodeo podcast, the show that asks really cool, interesting, and famous people about the various firsts on their paths to success. Today is no exception. In fact, it's a really special show for a couple of reasons. First, we've got our first actual rodeo guest. That's right. We've got the 1994 tie-down roping world champion and the current eighth place world stand in the world standings for the all-around world standings, Marcus Theriot and his father, Herbert Theriot. So that's pretty exciting. I know our show is not one about rodeos per se, but metaphoric rodeos based on the old question, what's so bad about your first rodeo? But I figured as a celebration of our first season, we would start the new season with actual rodeo stars. So I'm really excited about that. And then, as I said, it's an exciting show because we can celebrate our accomplishments for a year. We started the show about a year ago, and Liv was a wonderful partner on that process. We had her for about 10 shows, and unfortunately, she took a job in New York that took her away from the show, and we moved forward with some guest hosts. But since then, it's been you and me, and we're having a good time and having some great guests. And we've been doing some great things. We moved into the studio podcast headquarters to record, and the Lewis brothers have become our production crew, and really happy with what we've been able to accomplish. I thank you so much for supporting the show. I thank you so much for listening to the show, for subscribing, and for sharing it with others. And I thought I'd do a quick look back, and then we'll jump into the interview. But if you remember, or if you're new to the show, maybe you just jumped in because you just want to listen to the My First Rodeo podcast show talking to and about rodeo stars. But that is not all we are. We are so much more. In fact, we started, as I said, about a year ago, February 13th to be exact. And we had a great interview there with a fantastic lawyer. And then episode 2, Nathaniel Glover, the first black sheriff in the South since Reconstruction. We talked about him and his path and his firsts. Stacy Newman, who is a producer for several shows on Warner Brothers and also in CNN, including the Nancy Grace Show. A fantastic interview with her. New England Patriot All-Star Johnny Rembert joined us for episode number 4. And we stayed in the sports theme for episode 5 and talked to the play-by-play announcer for the Tampa Bay Rays, who I believe were undefeated at that point, quite far into the season. I will confess, his name is Andy Freed, and he is, in fact, my cousin. And so that was a lot of fun. We talked to a brain surgeon, thought, what happens when a brain surgeon does their first brain surgery? And we learned about that with Dr. Ali Shalavi. Episode 6. Episode 7, we got as close as we've gotten till now into the rodeo world by interviewing upcoming country western star Reed Foley. And that was a lot of fun. Talked to Justin Brooks, who is another lawyer who heads the California Innocence Project and was played by Greg Kinnear in the Brian Banks movie about one of his exonerees. And also talked to a lawyer in episode 9, Nancy Hollander, who has done so many great things, including representing a number of unlawfully detained and innocent people. We hear about the guilty ones, but the innocent people held in Guantanamo Bay. And in particular, one of her clients, a man named Mohamedou Al-Salahi, who was held for 14 years in various places, including Guantanamo Bay, and was tortured and ultimately exonerated. And a movie was made about him called The Mauritanian. It's streaming on Netflix. And she, Nancy Hollander, was played by Jodie Foster. We had episode 10 was me and Liv, really her last episode, just bantering, talking, and having fun. So not exactly a full episode, but that one's a lot of fun if you want to look back to it. Frank Pace, a Hollywood producer of the new Night Court, the old Night Court, the Murphy Brown Show, and so many great Disney and Warner Brother productions. Definitely a great interview to listen back to at episode 11. Garrett Scantling, an Olympian decathlete, episode 12. Brad Oscar, who, although his last name is Oscar, is actually a Tony-nominated Broadway actor. in a number of really great productions on Broadway, including the producers, is episode 13. Episode 14, we brought in the Gentle Giant NBA Hall of Famer Artist Gilmore, Billy O'Connor, comedian and all around impressive guy, in episode 15. Episode 16, stayed with the comedians and talked to dry bar comedy sensation Danny Johnson. The Honorable Scott Makar joined us for episode 17, and he told us what it's like to be a judge at the appellate level, and how who your judge is has something to do with the outcome of your case, something a lot of people think, but he was able to help articulate both from a um, implicit bias, lived experiences perspective, and also from the perspective of someone who has a particular judicial philosophy and could compare and contrast those philosophies. Moved in a totally different direction for episode 18 and talked to sports agent extraordinaire Jim Tanner, who's represented a ton of greats in the NBA, including Grant Hill, a bunch of other cool guys from Duke and North Carolina. We actually talked to Mohamedou Al-Salahi in episode 19, wrongfully detained in Guantanamo Bay for 14 years and tortured and portrayed in the movie. The Mauritanian and author of the Guantanamo Bay Diaries. Michael Siegel, actor in commercials and stage and a comedian, joined us for episode 20. Episode 21, we went with our youngest guest to date, Ezra Freeman, star of The Real Love Boat and a social media influencer. A really interesting person that gave us a really cool young person's perspective about how social media can launch and maintain and sustain success. We actually had U.S. Congressman Aaron Bean join us for episode 22. Episode 23 was Fred Posen, a longtime owner of a club in the Comedy Zone circuit, and talked about all the comedians that he's seen coming up and coming down in their careers. And Jay Birmingham, who ran Transatlantic California to New York in just over 71 days, joined us for episode 24. And I guess we finished out the year from a recording standpoint, although this episode 25 was released on January 1 with Rio Paris, who is a very successful Apollo comedian in New York and out of the Tampa area. So a lot of fun in year one. I hope you'd enjoyed. I hope you did enjoy my recounting these episodes. If you missed any, I hope you'll go back and listen to them. If you're new to our listenership, then I hope some of these piqued your interest and you will go back and listen to them. Now, I hope you enjoy my conversation with Herbert and Marcus Theriot talking about the rodeo. This is me talking to them. All right, we're rolling. Herbert and Marcus Theriot. How are you guys?
We good. Doing good.
Thanks for joining us. I know you guys are talking in the computer. Probably one of the great things about a rodeo is it's probably not a lot of technology involved. It's just you and animals, huh?
Good thing, because I don't know how to turn a computer on.
Well, somebody did all right. Somebody got you guys set up today. And are you all in Mississippi this morning?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, it's exciting to talk to you. I think I've told you both that although my podcast is called My First Rodeo, this is my first opportunity to speak on air to two actual rodeo stars. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
So tell me what you've been up to. I know, Marcus, you've had a busy year already. Tell our listeners what's been going on and what's coming up next.
Yes, sir. We just got done with the national finals, and actually, before they even roll around, we start the next year before we even end the other year. So there's really no break. We get a month or so off after the finals, and then it just starts right back. It's a steadily revolving. We do not get much break. So we've really enjoyed the time off after the finals.
And is that an event a week? How often are you competing?
Uh, some days, every day. Over the summer, we'll start about the 1st of July, and it'll go. For a hard month, we're 30 days. We're probably competing 25, 26 of them. We don't get many days off, and it's all over the world. I mean, it's a busy month. And then, August, it's almost just as busy. September, same way. And then October, things kind of die off. And there'll be a few New Year rodeos for the next year starting up. 3 or 4 rodeos we'll go to before the actual New Year starts. But we stay pretty busy.
Yeah, I would say. And then Herbert, how much has that changed, if at all, from when you were on the competing side as opposed to the promotion side?
It hasn't changed a whole bunch. When I was going, we could go to 100 rodeos in a year, and I went to 100 in 1994.
Wow.
Uh, it's when you leave, you tell people buy at home, you mean it for 3 or 4 months that you're
Yeah.
not coming home.
So the main change since and you're not an old guy, but it's a generation apart because obviously Marcus is your son. The main change would be what? The money?
Yeah, a lot of the money's changed. I think when the last year I went to the finals, I think the go rounds paid 17,000. Now they pay 30. So it's changed a good bit,
And at the top
but
end,
it costs a lot.
has it gone up as much multiple by multiple at the top end as
Oh,
well?
yeah, both ends, the payouts a lot better, but it costs these guys a bunch to go.
Yeah. And
It really does.
is that about sponsorships then, or you got to come out of pocket for a lot of that stuff?
Well, really, where we live, it's hard to get sponsorship. Uh, Mississippi, these eastern states really not known for rodeo cowboys, and a lot of guys out west they get all kind of sponsors. Mine was pretty much mostly out of pocket. I had a few sponsors, and Marcus has got a few. Uh, yeah, we love more sponsors, but you do what you love. You find a way to do it.
Yeah, and you guys are in make sure I'm pronouncing it right, Poplarville, Mississippi?
Yeah.
That's it.
And you say not a lot of sponsorships there, but there are a lot of rodeo people and retired rodeo people, aren't there?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
How
Yeah,
did
as
that
far as the
how'd that
South,
happen?
uh, I guess just happened to be in the right place that they all gathered up here when they were done.
Yeah.
But as far as the South, I will say I think Poplarville is probably the capital as far as a majority of rodeo people live here. Other places in the South, there'll be one or two, but far as any event, Mississippi, if the Poplarville crowd's coming, then it's going to be a lot bigger event around here. If the Poplarville crowd ain't coming, it's not going to be a real big deal. But I just think it's pretty central to a few associations, and we have the rodeo team, the college rodeo, so that's really helped our rodeo community a little bit, and it's it's a good place.
It sounds like a nice place. So let's start with you, Herbert. Your first rodeo in your first rodeo. For our listeners, there's certain things. We all play whatever football when we're growing up or basketball, and so if somebody becomes a college football star, or professional, it's kind of a logical step up. How does one get involved, particularly back in your day, in rodeoing? And in the events that you got involved in, and what were the first tries like, and how did you move up?
Well, my daddy trained horses, and we helped daddy train. He taught us how to train roping horses and all that, and break horses. And it was just, I don't know. I guess I fell in love with it, and because I had played just a little bit of football in high school, and I can remember being practicing football, and I couldn't wait to get them pads off so I could go home and rope. That's all I wanted to do. And when I really can't remember my first rodeo, but I know I was always taught, and I've tried to teach it to my kids. It's nothing different than what we do at home. When you go to rodeo, all you're doing is roping against other people, and competing against other people and just doing your same deals that you do at home. You know, you got to take it back to where you started, no matter what you're doing, and practice and practice. And I love to practice. I mean, Marcus loved to practice. My other kids practice. I can remember hauling Marcus, and we would come home. We'd get home 2 or 3 o'clock on Saturday, Sunday mornings, and think we was going to just hang around, not do nothing on Sunday. You ready to go rope? You want to go haze some steers for me? It's always been we don't make them do it. They didn't make me do it, and for somebody that wants to, I guess it's people say it's bred in you. I don't know if it is or not, but if you got the love for it, you can take this sport far as you want to go.
And you mentioned same as what you do at home, and I know that primarily means practicing. How much of, and I want to get into what the different events are, but how much of what you do to compete is actually a function that one performs on a farm? In other words, did you actually those skills were useful in your life, and then you brought them to the rodeo, or were they simply, like football, something that you do to compete?
Yeah. Well, the way we trained horses was, same way I competed at the rodeos. But far as the, you know, ranching, my father-in-law run lots of cattle. We grazed cattle, and we didn't tie many cattle down in the pasture like we do at the rodeo. We would rope them and stretch them, doctor them, things like that. But far as for it being, like I tell you, what we practice at home is what we do and what we worked on. I didn't train horses when Marcus was coming up. So when Marcus went to the practice pen, he went there to practice to get better, where it just comes natural.
Just stuff you've been doing since you were a little boy, huh?
Yeah.
And then you had the same opportunity, huh, Marcus?
Yes, sir. Like he said, we didn't really train that many horses when I was coming up. It was, I think they done it as a job, and then they got the practice and the opportunity to be great through that. Me, I was more just. I think it was more business for me. I done it to win, not to go out there and make an everyday living training horses, and I do think that helps. And but like he said, if you like what you're doing, I don't know. I do think you're born with it, because I don't think you can, put it in anybody to want to do anything. Uh, but I've had great opportunities.
Yeah, yeah, and all you have three kids, right, Herbert?
Yes, sir.
And obviously Marcus competing at a high level, but your son and your daughter are also competing and having some
Yeah,
success.
they competing. We have our finals next week in Huntsville, Alabama, and all three of my kids will be competing.
And your other two are how old?
Mason is 20 and Melena's 14.
Okay, so she's obviously still competing in the, what would you call it, the youth level?
She's in high school rodeo, but she's in the NCPRA, the National Cowboys Pro Rodeo Association, that's down here in the South. And our finals are in Huntsville, Alabama. And this will be the first year that I've had all three of my kids competing at it.
More nerve wracking to compete, or more nerve wracking to watch your kids compete?
A lot more nerve wracking to watch my kids compete. I knew what I was going to do. uh, and I don't know. I guess it's to watch, to know how hard they worked to get where they at. And man, you just sitting there like, boy, I hope don't go crazy. Let you just do what you capable of doing. That's all you got to do. And like I tell you, I could handle mine. I knew what I was going to do.
Right.
Uh, but and it's a feeling I can't explain to you. to watch, to know how I've watched them work all their lives. And when they get somewhere and they rope, and you got somebody come by you and slaps you on the back and tells you, great coaching job or something like that, it's a heck of a feeling.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And I'm guessing, Marcus, your father, a man of few words. I'm guessing he coaches with a look and with a few words and what he doesn't say at times, and at other times with words.
Yeah, no, we usually say he usually tells me whatever he's thinking, whether I need to hear it or not.
Yeah,
But no, it's great because he's seen me at every level, and he knows what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable of, and that's what like you said, we just try to, when we go somewhere, you don't change anything from home, because it, to me, if you can't do it at home, you're not going to be able to do it competing at any level.
right.
We try to take shots at home that are a little beyond our reach, and if we can't do it at home, I don't want to get somewhere and try something that I can't do at home. And that's what, like you said, when we get somewhere, we just try to stick to what we've trained ourselves and are capable of doing. And there's been very few times in competing in any of my events, and I've been very blessed to be decent in 3 events, but there's very few times in any event, and anybody that's good in any events, that you make one of the best runs you've ever made and you don't win. It seems to be, when you do your job and if you draw okay, you're going to win. You might not always win first, but you, winning more than losing is how you're successful in this event. So that's one of the big things. Whenever we go somewhere and he's there, it's not no you know big hype up. We're gonna make the greatest run we've ever made. We're just trying to do what we're used to doing, and that's usually good enough.
Just staying within yourself.
That Yeah, just I call it, staying in your lane. Don't try to take the boss's job. Whenever you're gonna win plenty, and that's what I'm no big. I don't rope for the fame or the glory. I do it to make a living, and I love doing it. And that's probably held me back from winning a few more titles or championships than I should have. But I I do it because I love it. And I want to be successful at it. I'm not gonna. I don't think I swing for the fences every time. Is what
Right.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like, I mean, the skills, obviously, you and your competitors, and you, Herbert, when you were competing. Am I right to perceive everybody's got the same? I don't want to say abilities. Everybody is capable of doing each of the skill sets. The question is, how much preparation do you put into it, and muscle memory and all those things, right?
Yeah. Uh, a lot of people do the work, they put it in, put the time in, but when it comes down to having to do it, a lot of people can't do it. And I was one that was always believed, and I guess it's the way we was raised, because you got to be pretty thick-hided to hang out with us. We don't pull back on what we're gonna say. Uh, if you can't take picking, and you can't take, people getting on you about stuff, don't come around. And we've always been, I've always thought that pressure was a cop out.
Mm,
People said they pressured up, and I thought, no, pressure is something, if you want to let pressure get you, I guess you can. I've always said there was no such thing until I took Marcus to his first national finals in junior high. And I'm telling you, he told me one time, we were standing back there in Gallup, New Mexico. He said, Daddy, you done told me that 3 or 4 times.
mhm,
I was nervous. And I didn't think, nerves is something I just didn't believe could
mm,
get me. I was always the one that I thought I'd done my homework. I could put pressure on you. You wasn't putting pressure on me. And pretty much the guys that Marcus was brought up with at the rodeos was the best in the world. You know what I mean? There's not many kids that I see had the opportunity that Marcus did because he was around every great champion that ever was in my time. Roy Cooper, Cody O, Fred Whitfield, Steve Duhon, Joe Beavers, everybody. And everybody used to take Marcus and pick on him, they get on the horse, they go ride, and they'd make Marcus tell somebody something smart, cuss at him, whatever. And it really it got Marcus a lot of whippings from his mama, but it also nobody bothered Marcus, no matter how big you were, how many gold buckles you had won. He was raised up with them guys, so he. I look at it as he was very blessed to be able to come up with them guys, and they match rope him on the dummy. And if he missed, oh Lord, they picked on him. So when he was old enough to, kind of go on and start roping, nothing bothered him. He done been through it all.
Mm. Do you remember Marcus those things the same way, or do you remember at least early on, maybe being inspired, but also intimidated, embarrassed, all those other human qualities?
Oh, as a kid, I think all kids get embarrassed, whatever they're doing, to some stage. But, like he said, just growing up around them and seeing that, that's what's funny. When I first started pro rodeo, and there's a lot of guys, they think they're better than you, and, whatever. And it's like, Bubba, I was raised with people way better than you. You know what I mean? And I think that did help a lot. It did. And just back when we was rodeoing, just being around all them guys, I can just remember you never really, and I'm sure to some extent they did. You never heard them guys talk about losing. That they wasn't worried about losing anywhere. Yeah, of course they did lose some, but it's just a winning mentality, and I think that helped me more than seeing any of them or hanging out with any of them. It's just if you don't believe that you're going to win, there ain't no need to go. And hey, there's been times I had horses that I didn't like and knew I wasn't going to win on them, still went. Had the thought I wasn't going to win, didn't win nothing. I mean, that's just if there is any doubt in your mind that you're not going to be successful or win, that's usually how it's going to go.
Right.
And I don't know. I like I said, I think that helped me more than anything of that situation. And just being around them guys, if something wasn't going right, change something. You know, uh, my dad's had horses that we owned. He would get to a rodeo somewhere and he's liable to ride something different when he had a horse. But that
Hmm.
horse that he, rode was better than the horse he had. I think you can't let pride get in the way. And that's something that I don't think a winner does.
Right.
You know, they're prideful, but they'll swallow their pride and make a change to help them win.
And
And I think that's huge.
talk about the horses themselves, and again, assume that some of these listeners, a lot of them aren't knowledgeable about rodeo. How much of the sport, obviously it's about what you do, what you've trained to do, how much of it is about the animal? And in that respect, does money change it? Is somebody that has unlimited funds, are they able to compete in a different way, or have success quicker, or in a different way?
You know, always when we was growing up, I'd aggravate daddy. I wish we were rich. We could have this horse, and I wish we could have this horse. But I truly believe it's about what you put into it. There was some of them horses that I had, and I'll just say it how it is. That they weren't good horses. They tried to get out of everything you did with them. But I think to extent it teaches you how to win a little more depending on yourself. I do agree that a good horse, is as important as your roping them because if he ain't no good, you're not going to beat them elite guys. But and back to the financial part, yeah, of course, money helps with anything, but you still got to be able to. You got to learn how to win. You got to have the heart for it and the desire for it. I think I'm a prime example. Money ain't everything. If you want to be successful in the sport, you will be, and there'll be people help you along the way. But as far as the horse part, I've had horses. I had good horses when I first started pro rodeoing. They were just a little old. I got close to making the finals. I think my second year, I was 17th or 18th. And then that horse, like I said, he was older. He started fizzing out, just didn't have, lost a step, just wasn't what he once was. And then I would say 2 or 3 years. Honestly, I shouldn't even have been rodeo because the horses I had were not good enough. They were either green or wore out or just been through the ringer, was old and sour to rodeo. And I really shouldn't have rodeoed, but it's hard whenever the new year rolls around. New year, new me. You know what I mean? I'm gonna make
Sure.
it this year, and I think that was. I probably would have. I don't. I don't think I would have been further in my career because clearly not rodeoing wouldn't have got me nowhere. But it taught me a lot as far as some of the importance that I don't think I would have learned had I just been winning, winning, winning.
Right.
But once I did get good horses, I took way better care of them good horses than I did the first ones I had because I
Mm.
realized, yeah, I'm not Superman and I sure ain't without good horses, and I think that's what, as far as that goes back to the financial part. If I could have just bought good horses, I would have never learned how much to appreciate the good horses and how much they mean because I'm telling you, I went probably 3 or 4 years with horses that they weren't bad horses, but they wasn't what a horse has got to fit you. I don't care how good the horse is. If he don't fit you, he's not a good horse to me. But
Hmm.
it's just it's a heck of a process. I know that.
And when you say fit, you're talking not just obviously physical fit, but personality fit.
Yeah, I that's what I was telling Daddy the other day. I have a horse that's got a lot of talent. I still own him, but when I go out in the field to catch him, he won't let me catch him. And just everything I go to do with him, we just don't get along. I mean,
Mm.
it's a so yeah, personality fit. I do think horses have personalities, but what I'm mainly talking about, like far as fit, like scoring. If I pull too hard whenever I, nod, you want to let the cow have a little more head start. If I pull too hard, I've had some horses that won't take that. They don't like that. You'll see too much, see too less. Or like far as my swing, if I if I have a little slower swing than the horse's stride, well then that don't fit. Well then if I have a little too fast a swing for the horse's stride, if he's like a more laboring running, then that don't fit. I mean, there's just so if the horse is too little, too big, it's just so everything has to line up. And it's not like going to the shoe store and buying your size shoe. It just there's a lot of things that have to line up.
And then Herbert, you got to build a relationship with them, right? I mean, even if you got all those things, you got to put in the time, right?
Oh yeah, you have to know what you have to have all the confidence in your horse. You know he's going to do this. You can't haul him to a rodeo and not know. Because if you do, you're not concentrating on what you got to do. When I rodeoed, the horse was a very big plus to me. Uh, I was fortunate enough to ride lots of horses all through my life, coming up, working, training horses with my daddy. So if I had to fly to a rodeo and get on somebody's horse, if I could ever watch them run one, then I knew then if I could ride him or not. But
Yeah.
it's you when he's talking about the horse, it's kind of, I always said, you click, y'all, you together. Uh, you have to have all the confidence in your horse. You know what he's going to do every time.
Hmm.
And people said, no, there ain't no such thing. Yeah, there is. There really is. You know this horse is going to do this. If, you went to the rodeo and you're not sure, it makes it easier to beat you.
Yeah, it's got to be right. And you developed that relationship with them. The one thing I haven't heard you talk about as a father or as a competitor either of you is getting hurt. And I suppose that extends to the horse as well. Um, how nerve wracking is it to watch your children worrying about injury, or is that not in your mentality because of all the prep you put in and because it'll just cause you to get injured?
No, we don't ever worry about getting hurt. Marcus got hurt earlier this year working for me at a rodeo, and I've had a lot of people tell me, man, you should have never let him be on that horse
Hmm.
picking up broncs. And, my reaction is we was not, we wasn't raised up in a glass bubble. When you are going to rodeo, you're going to fool with horses, you're going to get hurt sooner or later. Uh, we just, there's a lot of times, yeah, we go to the rodeo, we hurting, but we got to go.
Hmm.
You got to suck it up and go on. It's going to get better. If it's a broke bone, then you don't go. But sore muscle, pull this or that. There's ways to get around it. Mm, we just, I don't know, just suck it up and go on.
Marcus, for you, is there, forgive the ignorance of the question, is there, what's working out like aside from practicing? Are there things that you do to stay limber? Are there things you do weightlifting wise to get stronger? Is that an important part of what you do?
Before I don't go to the gym. I should go to the gym, but usually we're so busy practicing. If it's dry, I don't. I feel like I do enough in that day's time to stay strong and somewhat stay in shape. That Ironman deal that comes around every March. The last 2 or 3 years, I've been going to the gym and I'll ride the bike a bunch and just try to get my air built up, I guess you would say, because that's a long day. Just try to get a little toned up just a little bit, and it's there's that one event at the Ironman in the steer wrestling all year long in the steer wrestling. If you miss your steer gets away, you're done. He got away. Well, there, if you miss your steer gets away. You can run down to the other end of the arena and catch your horse, get back on, and jump the steer again.
Mm.
Well, that arena over there is like 400 foot long. I mean, it's a big one, and I've seen guys, numerous times run down there. I've seen a few guys get hurt. I shouldn't say numerous, but I've seen numerous guys run the length of the arena, and
Mm.
by the time they catch their horse, they're almost too tired to get on. I mean,
Yeah.
and then if you do get on and you catch the steer, whenever you catch the steer, you're so burnt out. That Eric Rogers tore his knee up there one year. Just caught the steer, was so burnt out he couldn't hold on to him, and just steer tore his knee up. And you was talking about getting hurt, and I've been hurt. I haven't never just really been hurt bad, knock on wood, but I think it's one of them deals, kind of like football. As long as you lay the hardest lick, if you hit the other guy the hardest, more than likely you're not the guy getting hurt. But if you run into the block worried about getting hurt, you're about to get creamed. And
Right.
that's kind of the way I look at rodeo too. If you're worried about getting hurt, one, I don't think you should be doing it. And two, I don't there's a way bigger chance of getting hurt if you're going at it 50% scared to get hurt. If you're doing it with dominance, yeah, of course you are going here and there, twist your ankle, hurt your knee, whatever. But I've been fortunate not to have many bad accidents.
Yeah. Well, good. I hope that continues. So, Marcus, tell us, you compete primarily in three events. tell us what they are and compare them to what your father did as well.
Well, I rode calves. That was his main event, and I steer wrestle. That was his other main event. I do them the last 4 or 5 years. I've just done them like kind of around the house in this southeastern circuit is what it's called, and then my main event's team roping. That's what I do. I guess worldwide, and whenever we do that timed event deal in March, that Ironman that I was mentioned, we had to put all them events together, and we steer rope too. That's an event that isn't very big, and it's probably the hardest to prepare for. But
And what makes it the hardest?
that it's not around very much.
I got you.
It does not exist in the southeast. I'm the only person in the southeast. I would say this side of the Texas line that has to do that event, and it's just to get ready for that one event that we do, and it's definitely the hardest, And I think mainly because I grew up head and heeling, calf rope, and steer wrestling. I've done them for years, and it's not new to me. But the steer roping, and just like I was saying, when you're worried about getting hurt, is when you're going to get hurt. That's the event I kind of worry about messing up in, and
Hmm.
that's the event I've messed up in.
Hmm.
So I just had to prepare extra hard for that event, and it's just not. I guess you would say first nature to me.
Yeah, that makes sense. And team roping, am I right that you team rope with
Yes, sir.
your cousin?
Yeah, he's my distant cousin through marriage and stuff, but uh, yeah, yeah, I do.
And how does that work out? You guys been working together for how long?
I would say 6, 7, no, longer than that. Probably 10 years now, close to it. He's I think he's 20, 21 maybe, so he's 5 years younger than me. And when he was little, at his first rodeos, I was just starting to kind of pro rodeo and stuff. So, and there isn't a lot of good healers around here. So if one or two guys are busy that weekend, then it's kind of bottom of the barrel healers. So, then he was young, like I'm guessing 13, 14, and they had started carrying him to some rodeos. So whenever my one or two good healers wasn't around here to go, it was almost like I was investing in him a little bit, kind of training up a young guy to go to the rodeos. And his mom and daddy hauled him, but every now and then he would go with us. And it's been cool to see him come because I know where he started, and he had a normal kid life. He wasn't around all the top guys and stuff like that. It's been cool to watch him progress, and for us to make it together, that was pretty cool.
That's pretty neat. So, I mean, fair to say you kind of carried him in the beginning, but now he's holding his own.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I still babysit him, I tell him, but yeah, he definitely carries his own.
That's pretty neat. That's neat to keep it in the family. So, you've had some success lately. Talk about your championships and where you've been finishing and what your goals are.
Yes, sir. We for the national finals rodeo, it's the biggest event we have. When you make that one, it definitely means something. And for instance, from the time you enter your first rodeo, that's your goal. That's every guy that's entered a rodeo's goals. Make national finals, win a gold buckle, whatever. Uh, and I've rodeoed trying to do that since I was 18. So uh, I don't think I rodeoed to like. I think I've been rodeoing 7 years. However that worked out, because my
Mm.
birthday's in May. I kind of waited till the next year to start, and that's the pedestal of rodeo for sure. And this year we got qualified. The finals are in December. It's 10 rounds. That's each round pays 30,000. Whoever does the best or the most consistent over all 10 rounds wins the average. That's I think 85,000. So it's a huge deal for us, and I got to go to that this year, and that's definitely a goal achieved to go to that. So as far as goals from now, I've the gold buckle's the greatest thing you can win. The average title out there is the second biggest, and like I said, I ain't never really been one to get caught up in titles and the fame and all that, but I finally made it, and now I feel like it's a bigger goal. I would love to win the world or the average title, and I feel like I am pretty patient on all that. As long as I'm making the finals, I'm very happy, and that's the goal when we start out in January. But of course, I would like to win the average or a gold buckle. Either one of them is good with me.
That's great. I mean, to those of us who aren't on the rodeo, what is the relationship like with the other riders? I mean, you're on the rodeo with different people sometimes, but it's cutthroat competition, I guess, or is it friendly competition? What would you all describe the relationship as?
I think all of us have two or three people out there that we kind of rely on for help or favors or whatever you want to call it. And then there's definitely a cutthroat side of it for sure. There ain't no doubt about that. But I've got three or four friends out there that rodeo full time that I mean, whatever I need. If I need to ride their horse, if I need to take their truck, whatever it is, they're gonna do all they can to help us for sure. Uh, and I've got good relationships with them three or four guys, and of course, there's way more guys than that out there that I really like and pull for. But I whatever as any of us, there's definitely guys out there that you're not fond of, and I, I feel like I have a pretty good relationship with most of the guys out there.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's helpful to have those good relationships since you're spending so much time with the guys. But I know you're out there to win, but I'm assuming every once in a while somebody does something really extraordinary or cool, and I don't know. Do you cheer those people on, or do they cheer you on, just to show that you have respect for the people that are out there?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's two sides of it. Like you said, whenever winning gets you more respect out there. I don't think it should as a person, but it does. Winning is all that matters out there. And I think the guys that are out there longer, that rodeo longer, they I feel like there's a way bigger like and dislike for them guys. You either love them or you hate them because they've been doing it so long. They think they're the big fish in the pond, and they don't care what you think. And I can't say I disrespect that because I like that side.
Mhm.
But I just think they've been out there way longer and seen flaws out of people, or maybe not got help, or when other contestants could have helped them. So I think I'm not necessarily a new guy, but I haven't done it that long, and I feel like I'm really easy to get along with. So I think from that aspect, I don't feel like I get caught up in the oh, I can't stand him. I hope he doesn't do good. And, there's definitely a few guys I don't like, and I'm sure they don't like me. But that's just part of the sport and the competition and uh, being competitive, I guess.
How about you, Herbert? Has it changed much since when you were competing at the highest level? Was the community smaller when you were competing at your peak performance?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of help. I was when I first started, I was lucky enough to get in the truck with some guys that were winners. Uh, Steve Duhan, Jeff Green, and Gary Green. And it was told of my family, one of my family members, that them guys were steer wrestlers, and I was a calf rubber. I steer wrestled, but I didn't think I was big enough to steer wrestle. And I was told, sent word to my family, one of my brothers, that if I was going to ever make the national finals roping calves, I needed to get out of the truck with them bulldoggers. And that got back to my daddy. And my daddy knew I was raised up with Steve Duhon. We're like brothers. And my daddy knew them. He knew his daddy. And them guys that came over and spent a few days practicing because we was going to some rodeos not far from our house. And when my daddy found out that that was said, my daddy told me, he said, boy, you better do all you can to stay in that truck because you are with winners. He said, it don't matter if y'all playing marbles, you're going to win. And them guys have your back. And, from that was my first year. And then I got in with, different guys that darn sure helped me. And then I got in with Fred Whitfield. He helped me. I can't mention everybody that, Cody Oles helped me. Roy Cooper helped me. I rodeoed with Ray Brayburn from Florida. It was like I got to pick who I wanted. I was that lucky. And then I had some guys that got in with me toward the end of my years, and they trusted that I could help them, and we really did have. It was the best years. I mean, it was fun. And people say there's no way you can get along that many days staying together. That's wrong because it was every day you woke up, it was something fun fixing to happen. And it really was. It was, I wouldn't trade my life with nobody's.
Yeah, those are both great stories. What's it like to be a rodeo wife? That is to say, not that you're one, but
my wife kept things pretty straight. She done a lot of driving, really. My wife she'd take it from about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning till daylight. We call daylight 9 o'clock in the morning. But Renee, before we had Marcus, she stayed out there with me a bunch, and then when Marcus come along, she finally got a good barrel horse, and we would kind of swap off. I'd watch Marcus while she rode. I was supposed to watch him, and then she watched him. A lot of times it would be her and Marcus driving to a rodeo by themselves. We'd be flying into another, from another rodeo, coming to meet them. Yeah, if I wouldn't have had the people I had, I wouldn't have went near far as I've been.
What a life! And you were the 1994 world champion teardown roper, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. So it's got to be something pretty incredible to come up around, doesn't it, Marcus?
Yeah, that was definitely. I don't know how old I was, but it was kind of crazy because since I could know what was going on, I knew what a world champion was. Clearly he won the world, but it was way later on. It was kind of weird how old I was before I ever seen that, like seen the run that he won the world. Like it was way later. I'm sure maybe I seen it or whatever earlier, but I never remembered it. And because whenever I was coming up, we didn't have YouTube or whatever. You couldn't just search that run. So if we didn't have that VCR tape, you didn't see it. So it was probably, I bet I was 11 or 12 years old before I ever seen it. Then they started making the DVDs of all the national finals rodeos, and I think I maybe ordered it or seen somebody had it, and I seen it. But yeah, it was great. And I don't think I ever really got the full uh, vision of it until I started rodeoing, and then it's like them guys that rodeoed for that long, made the national finals that many times. You really respect it a lot more, whether it costs more now to go or period. it ain't about the money, the staying gone, being away from everything at home that you enjoy. And it's fun out there, but it ain't home. When things aren't going great, that's what I think nobody ever really talks about much is the ups and downs. Whenever we do an interview, it's about how great you done, or whenever they do an article, it's about, oh, you won this or you done that. The downs are just as low as the highs out there. I, I've been I've had great months and I've had horrible months, where I lost more than I won the great months. And that's so, like I said, once you've kind of been through the fire out there, you appreciate what guys like my dad and the other greats have done.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that must put you in a better position than a lot of guys your age because you've got so much experience, but then you've got the experience you're able to tap into from your father and all the great stuff that's been around you and the other greats that have invested in you.
Yeah, and that's what I've rodeoed. I've competed 7 years. I've rodeoed about 15 because I went with him, till I started school. I was always out there. That's what I can't. I really can't just from me being in junior high because once I started 8th grade to I was a senior, we were all no 6th grade to senior. We were always out west for the 4th of July. So I haven't been home for a 4th of July since I was probably 10 years old, 10, 11 years old. And that's what like it's weird. People always talk about, oh yeah, 4th of July, we're gonna do this. I'm like, I wouldn't know. I haven't been home, for them. Like it's just certain stuff you do miss when you're out on the road, but I clearly enjoy what I do. So
It's got to be great that you get to do it with family. And I know it's something old for you and certainly for you, Herbert, growing up in it. But I think for our listeners, it's going to be something real extraordinary, an extraordinary look into what it's like to be a multi-generational rodeo star. So I'm grateful for you guys sharing it with us. It's exciting to get to know you at this stage of your career, Marcus. And it's nice to see people succeeding, doing things the right way. So congratulations on that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much. Well, that was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with the Theriots. If you're trying to find out more about them on the internet, you'll want to spell their name the way it's spelled and not the way it sounds. That's Theriot. Marcus and Herbert. I guess it would be Theriot if it was pronounced the way it's spelled, but it's Theriot. Terrio is at least how I abbreviated it for myself. Hey, I really enjoyed talking to those guys. It's really a look behind the scenes of something that we all have sort of a caricature of the rodeo, but so few of us have seen in real life, maybe even on a video, and certainly almost none of us have experienced the way they have at the highest level and as a family, multi-generational, coming up in that community. So I really enjoyed getting to know about first rodeos on the way to rodeo success. I hope you enjoyed it too. I hope you will continue to listen to the My First Rodeo podcast. I hope if you have not already, you will subscribe. I hope you will share this episode and others, and I hope you'll come back and join us next time on My First Rodeo. My First Rodeo.